panel discussion, how to start. Of course, with an introduction. So the way I will do is, of course, I will share my very short experience of the panel, and all of them, I'm very fortunate, I'm working with them, on and off. And then, of course, they will introduce each one by one. Will be a bit cognizant of the time as well, so there will be a bit of time. But I'm sure that we'll able to extract everything that we want to get from this panel. Let's begin. Is Mr. Venkat. He's a very senior person. Let me tell you one credential of him. Last year, we were organizing a partner day with EdgeVerve because he's a very senior person at EdgeVerve. But what typically we expect, or rather what typically I expect, I would have expected that, okay, he will pass it on all the technical discussion to the practitioners. But just after that partner day, which was like a presentation, we kind of spent around 1.5 hours where Venkat was there, Shrija was there, and Wolfgang. And we were discussing on features which are potentially to be required in the Tosca. And he is aware of all of them, and he was also motivating to get that change done. So guys, I want to get a huge round of applause for Venkat, our first panelist. And I will request Venkat to take kind of 2 minutes to introduce about his background that we need to know, and then we'll go to the further panelist.
Thank you, Vaibhav. It has been great working with you as well. Thank you for the introduction. It has been roughly last 2 years wherein I have been working with Tosca. Of course, much before that, I worked with other tools as well. Roughly by now, I have 20 plus years of development experience. Just to give a quote, the experience with Tosca has been quite different, and of course, I will share that during this period, why it has been different, what are the things which makes it different. It has been great. I have been working in this industry for 20 plus years, as I said. Majority of the time have been spent in product development. It has been significantly different, quite different, because services development tends to do a different thing than a product development. Each one of them have their own merits and other sides as well. So during this panel discussion, I will keep concentrating back on this as much so that people understand the difference and apply Tosca correspondingly.
Okay, great. Thanks, Venkat. The second panelist is almost like, if you are in cricketing terms, is the Virendra Sehwag of the certifications. Why? Because the strike rate, if you go 1 year back in the calendar, you will see that a company by the name of Capgemini or Sogeti will have not that significant number of certifications. But then one person came with a thought process that we should certify our workforce. The workforce is not like a 10 or 100, it's more than 1,000 users. And then he took his personal, inputs. He used, internal resources. He worked with us from the alliance management point of view. Within 1 year time frame, the total number of certifications that Capgemini Sogeti has now is more than 6,000. And the unique users are more than 1,800. So he is Maheshwar Kanitkar. He is the leader of Capgemini Sogeti. And I want to welcome him with a great round of applause.
Good morning, all. Good morning, Wolfgang. Thank you for inviting us today. And it's a pleasure to be a partner today out here to sponsor this event. I have total 22 years plus experience in this industry. A lot of that is in development. I work with companies like Microsoft also in the past. What I see a change is in our workforce with our clients is there is a constant demand of automation. And how do we deliver that? So as a service provider at Sogeti and Capgemini, we have that big change we see in the market. So we identified Tosca as one of the key tools to deliver the automation, and that is where our journey started. So we will discuss that in our panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Our third panelist comes from Vienna. His name is Alexander Moore, but in that region, he's more famous by the name Sasha, which is a kind of a synonym for Alexander. Sasha is working within Tricentis as right now as a customer success manager. But before that, he was deeply involved in the API and service virtualization side as a product management side. So he's very deep into the product management side. What most important thing for Sasha for me is his end-to-end view. He's almost having a tester's view because he is running the most, comprehensive project within Tricentis called DevOps Toolchain. It's on demo as well outside, and we have a special session in the evening time today where we will do the live demo of the DevOps Toolchain. So I would like to welcome Sasha and want to have a great round of applause for him.
So my name is Alexander Sasha Mohr. I'm working for Tricentis, as you said, in a customer success department as a digital strategist for continuous testing and agile transformation. We help our customers to apply the right testing strategy on team and on enterprise level. The interesting part is we get a lot of input in how customers are currently setting up the testing strategy. We can advise them, we can tell them what's happening in the next 2 or 4 years, and that's some of the things I want to share today.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. So now going into the topics, you all know it. There are two names which people use it, almost as a synonym and always. One of them is digital disruption. The second name is DevOps. These both are kind of, buzzwords, but the point is these are buzzwords already from last 2 years. They are no more words now, they are reality. And I think everyone in the hall today would agree that there are 3 or 4 things that we see on daily basis. We see that release cycles of delivery of anything for that matter, but especially software, is reducing, right? So we don't see now, 1.5 year to 2 year release cycles. We are seeing cycles in months, maybe few less than that, but the release cycle is decreasing because there is a need of going faster, right? So that's very inevitable. Everybody knows it. Second thing, we all know that to every leader, not only a testing leader, but an organization-wise leader, automation is a key element. Everyone wants to go automation. And this is not happening today. This is happening from thousands of years back when someone would have invented a fire or a wheel. They all are automation, more or less. So it's just natural, but it's going very fast. It's coming very fast. So automation is also there. We all are aware now, and if 3 years back we see the focus was on UI automation. Everybody already transitioned to the API automation. Everybody know that API is stable. Everybody know that APIs are faster. And everybody know that they are available before the UI. So there's nothing to really, say, state, and confirm that these things are there. But what I want to get from the panel as the first question is, since last 2 or 3 years, in their area of work, or maybe their experience with the customer, what are the key changes they have seen? Maybe in 2 or 3 minutes each, I would like to get one by one their inputs that what are the key customer demand change that they are observing, and why we can say that DevOps is real. So we'll start with Venkat and then in order. So Venkat, if you can guide us for, let's say, 2 or 3 minutes, please.
Sure. One of the things what we have observed, both internally as well as externally, is that things are needed fast at the end of the day. As you said correctly, previously, every one of us and everyone in this room as well have gone through an yearly cycle. Frankly, if I reflect back now, I don't know how we managed a yearly cycle now, frankly. That is the level of change which has happened. And the most interesting fact is it is not only internal, it is also external. Quite often, customers also use it, sometimes as a buzzword, sometimes they really mean what they mean. Hence, it is important that we all align to that expectation. Why it matters is also important. When we, while I have had both development as well as QA experience, I would limit my discussion to QA because that is what would invite a lot of views from the audience here as well. As a dev guy, it would not be extremely difficult for me to adapt from an yearly cycle to a dev cycle, a 2-month cycle or whatever it is, because my work piece size is decreased, and hence I can just go forward and without much change in my practices, I could have managed. But for QA, it is a complete upside down practice change. People used to write test cases for 6 months and 7 months and stuff like that and execute it at the end of delivery for last 2 months or 3 months. Now, just simply they don't have that luxury. If a sprint is 15 days long, at the end of a sprint, they expect QA validation as well. And you obviously cannot take 5 days to validate it. You just will have to do it at the way in which things are being done. So that is a significant change which is happening. And it is most important that every one of us align to it rather than, sometime I have got people resisting it, but personally I feel that would be of no use. And we will have to up our skills and see how we should handle that. That is the most important piece here.
Great. Thanks, Venkat. I need to tell you, one of the most mature test automation with Tosca, which happens at Finacle at Edgeverve with Venkat's team. They are doing daily pipe, which is the CI integration, continuous integration. Everybody again knows it. But they are doing almost 2,000 to 3,000 test cases per day. And of course, you know that if you want to run those many test cases, they can't be UI. So you need to have majority, more than 80% of test case accessed via functional layer, which is like API. And that's what already happening in Venkat's team. The full regression within 10,000 test case runs within a week. They're able to do full regression and daily pipe with those huge number of test cases at that level. And that's what is the background of Venkat. Thanks, Venkat, for helping that and getting that implemented. So let's go to Maheshwar and try to get to know that what are the changes. Since he's coming from a service background, what his customers are asking. And by the way, India is the service hub, right? We have more than 500,000 testing professionals, and a lot of them with Maheshwar. So Maheshwar, how you see the demand? What is the change in last 2 to 3 years?
One of the biggest change I see is because of the social media. What is happening is the feedback from end customer is not easily available in the earlier days. Now what is happening is, suppose the check-in counters are not working, people go to Twitter and tell this particular airline's check-in counter did not work today. So the company who is providing the service is hit immediately. So these kind of feedbacks are constantly coming in, and that makes the company run for the business, make them to ensure that those features are stable, they are available, new features are available immediately. And so the speed has increased because of the lot of pressure from the end users and the user experience point of view. The next thing is, at the same time, speed, the cost is cutting down. Like, I'm working with a lot of customers in telecom domain today and outside in banking domain. There is a tremendous pressure on cost. Every second customer asks you, okay, how can I reduce cost by 35% in next RFP? So you have to deliver better quality, faster release, ensure the social trends, the mood of the customers is taken care in your testing. At the same time, the automation has to be there because you have to deliver it, and it has to be delivered with 35% lesser cost. And your traditional automation technologies are far away to deliver that automation. So your resources, your employees, your engineers are not prepared to deliver that kind of automation in the given period. So that actually driving the whole system to deliver it more, faster. And that is where thanks to Wolfgang, the solution like Tosca helps to deliver it much faster than what we need. And that is where I think industry is moving on.
Great, great. Thanks, Maheshwar. Really, really useful input. And of course, when it's starting up, so the framework will take 1 minute. So I need to keep my story ready. That okay, all the files are getting added now, the data is embedded, soon the automation will start. So I need to tell that story for filling for 1 minute. As soon as the run is there, I will say, now it's running. So then they will say, oh yeah, good, very good. So the automation is achieved. But when we see today, the project that Sasha is running and that he will demonstrate later in the day is such a complex project that I am not even attempting to explain it. The business abstraction name of that project is DevOps Toolchain, meaning from development up to the deployment and everything in between. All that is covered in single project, and now if you want to see that demo, that will be a real demo. Meaning whatever name you want to tell, I think Sasha will say it's already included, you know. So Sasha, why you need that kind of project? Is it like people want that, or is it your hobby project?
It's more than a hobby.
Okay.
Let me first start with Wakhan, what you said, and Mahesh Kuva. I totally agree with you. The first thing is speed. So customers need speed, and the second thing is cost. The speed is the first thing. I was working for a telecom company a few years ago, once as a test manager, and they delivered a project which was electronic billing in 1.5 years. This is not working anymore today. I see on the other side, and I was just recently in Australia. Working with a bank there. They have transformed their development and the test. They use what we would call a kind of agile offshoring. For the payment application, created more than 50 squads. Squads are teams, and those 50 teams are then built for a compound. And they deliver every month already a big payment application. This is the first thing, which is speed. So what we see on the market is the outcome for the customer, and that our customers can deliver features more quickly to the customer. This is the first big change. The second is what you also said about cost and about structure, is the organization behind. So the organization is transforming. The typical, call it test center of excellence, is getting reduced more and more, or even bypassed. So the first who typically bypass the digital center of excellence are the digital groups for the system of innovation. Why? Because the test centers are too slow. And when we talk about costs, they didn't bring the value for what they have cost. What happens is that testing evolves. And you mentioned DevOps toolchain, you mentioned service virtualization. Testing evolves from a pure UI automation to a more sophisticated testing, which includes UI, API, which includes service virtualization. And technically, those tests are then created in the teams early in the life cycle, in the agile teams. That brings let's say, very good opportunity for us in the testing space, because we can make testing even more valuable by applying all these techniques. You asked about the DevOps toolchain. It's just a vehicle. It's a vehicle to deliver faster.
Great. Thanks, Sasha. So the change is there, right? And the demand is there. Our business leaders, our panelists are getting the demand. Now, let's quickly jump into the user level, the practitioner level, you and me, right? We need to also do something, right? If we don't do it, then we'll become dinosaurs. People will come in the museum to see us. That once upon a time, there was a tester called Vaibhav, and you'll say this was a manual tester, or something like that. So it's very simple, right? We need to ask them that what is their expectation. And let me be very honest, not all of you will just follow it, neither me. But we want some directions. There is a very diverse panel sitting here. Let's ask them that as per their experience, what are the changes at the practitioner level are required? What should be adoption at a practitioner level? This is like the IT testing professional. What should be today's IT professional from testing point of view should be doing, and what they feel? So let's ask them one by one, and then I have a very important question, which will be the final question of this panel. But let's understand that what is the to-do list for today's IT testing professional. Venkat, I would like to start with you again, please. Maybe 2 minutes each, guys.
Frankly, let me just take a sprint and dissect a little bit into what is happening. That will give an answer to what Vaibhav is trying to drive. Typically, there would be 7, 8, 10 set of folks in a sprint team. maybe 5, 6 dev guys, 2, 3, or 1 or 2 product manager, product owners, and 2 testing folks. And typically, a backlog is created for a sprint, which contains certain line items. If I am a dev guy, most of the time, by the time I enter the sprint, the framework is already there. Quite a good amount of functionalities which are being asked for, the basic functionality is already there. And I start with making an enhancement to that particular already existing functionality. If I look at it from the dev guy's viewpoint, I agree, there are test cases which are already existing for testing that functionality. Quite often, with minor changes to the code, I can deliver a significantly big functionality. It purely depends on the framework and the way in which application is written, but I have seen this being possible. Then the challenge rolls over to the testing team or the QA team. They have to write test cases for all these functionalities which have been developed and validate, automate it as well, and provide that continuous cycle of feedback so that it can be corrected and a healthy product comes out. There lies the challenge of what you are asking for. Can the QA team ramp up their speed to create test automation at the speed of development? This is something which I have been throwing this challenge continuously to people at Finacle team as well. Of course, it needs both the teams, dev and QA, to work together. I am not dissecting them as 2 independent teams, but each one of them have their responsibility. And this, I would consider it to be the key or crucial responsibility. Can you create test automation at the speed of development? That is a significant challenge. And different people have different approaches, and I have seen multiple people taking, multiple QA teams, leaders taking multiple approaches. All of them are welcome, but at the end of the day, can I get my automation done by the time sprint is out? I don't have separate time sitting outside to do this.
The second is from Maheshwar. Maheshwar, you of course are taking care of hundreds and thousands of people. So how you see that what they need to do? And there are many representative of Capgemini today in this session. So what is your ask for a practitioner? If you can articulate it in a kind of couple of minutes, what they need to do today?
See, future of tester, he has only 2 options. One is he move to the business side of it, get into a business analyst and understand the business better and test it in typically UAT and all that stuff. If you are to be a technology guy, you have to move on the automation. It is no longer a situation where I am a tester, so I will write a test plan in some document, I will write some test cases, somebody will review them manually, and then I will test it on the UI, and then I will report back after a few months. Nobody is having that money and time. So you have to move from your mindset, from your mental bracket, whatever you have frame, break it, understand market has changed. I'm not saying it is changing, it is changed. Nobody is looking for manual tester. So if you want promotion, if you want more progress in your career, you have to move on the automation. That's a very clear message. Coming back, yes, you can learn some technology in DevOps world, algorithm stuff, machine learning part of it. Tricentis also is coming up with a lot of those tools. Scriptless automation tools is the first basic thing you must have if you want to enter in the industry. So having said that, having the knowledge of automation is bare minimum requirement today. If I go back, my 1 year back or 1.5 years back, just summary for 18 months change, we have not hired more than 10% people in manual testing in the entire system. So and those 10% I'm talking about is all business analyst type of testers, like who understands payments, who understand telecom and all that kind of thing. Otherwise, we are only recruiting the automation guys. that is where clear change in last 18 months. So that is where I will strongly suggest the practitioners. It is not too late. Start today, start moving, learning automation, get on to that, and start moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mesh. Really, really interesting and good answer. Okay, Sasha, your 2 minutes, please.
Vakant, you asked the question if test can cope with the speed of development. I would even say they can be faster than development. The thing is, you transform from a kind of QA department, from a test center of excellence, and testers are placed in the agile teams. They realize they get all the knowledge from the very first day on. The testing day transforms in kind of a test as pair programming. The idea of pair programming typically is that two developers work closely together and verify what they are doing. The tester, as a separate role here, delivers from the very first day value to the team. Why? Because he creates already API or service utilization artifacts from the very first day on. And while a developer is still coding, the tester has already created the test artifacts, can provide it to the development, and once the developer is finished, he can already test during the sprint, not even waiting for the end to the sprint, during the sprint. The tester is embedded in the whole process of defining each user story, in understanding what is required for each user story, what is the input, what is the verification, how do we test it. These are things which are already discussed upfront and not 2 months later once you get a package and you're surprised what's in there. From saying that, this is how you transform. You are placed in the team, you work as pair programming, you focus on API service utilization, you get responsible in your team to create test artifacts, which is also test data management, which you create UI test cases, you create all the variants, what do I need to test, you understand what is the threshold, what is the boundaries, what are my variants, what is important. These are all the things that you create from the very first day on for each user story in parallel. And that's the value that you bring to the HL team, or even better, to the full enterprise. Because when we talk about teams, we typically focus on one component. In the end of the day, we want to have the component tested also in later stages. The big benefit is here, you create already your artifacts as a tester in the team, and everything what you create will be reduced already later. So you reuse, as you reduce double work, and there's real value for the full enterprise.
Sasha is absolutely right. I have seen a tendency, frankly, that I will do manual testing within the sprint and then pass it back to somebody who is sitting outside the sprint for automating it separately, and then add some more test cases, automate them, and then put it onto the system testing model. Frankly, this will not work, and I have seen it not working as well, because there is no separate team. Going forward, slowly, that separate team is going to vanish. Then what would it happen? Then absolutely it is going to be a very difficult task, because I cannot keep running manual test cases and then automating it. It is not going to happen. It is time that we start automating there. And that is where the power of automation tools are going to come in. And more we understand it better on how we do it, more I am educating myself and ramping up to the changes which are happening in the industry.
Great. Thanks, Venkat. Now I said to myself that if I am able to conduct this panel successfully in my terms, personally, if I reach to this question, which is coming now. So I'm thinking that yes, it's going good, and I'm really getting a lot of good inputs. The final point which I want to take, and I will only have perhaps 30 seconds each for all of them, and they need to respond because it's a very core question. The point is, we all of us know that there is a very famous person who is no more, but Steve Jobs, everybody knows him. There's a line which keeps on echoing, that whenever there's a technology and human, and if we want to select one, we need to select human, and technology comes later. What I want to now do is kind of run a mirror in front of the panel and ask them a very personal question, that how they are getting themselves relevant. Because technology is changing, it will change to the new names, but human will remain the same, hopefully. So how they are getting themselves relevant, and let me share one very small experience with all of these three, because that's very important. I think it's very good to share, because it will be positive for all of us. Let me start with Maheshwar. We met him 2 months back, and we said that, Maheshwar, we want to run a certification drive. He said, Vaibhav, the December has just passed away, and December is the time when there is appraisal time. People do certification in that fresher. So we don't have anything to pressurize people now. What should we do? And when we said, there's a plan. This is just March. If we set up a certification drive and invite those certified users, again, hopefully these are here, and they come to the user conference, they get a motivation, they get an aim. And Maheshwar really liked it. So Maheshwar, I want to know that how you have understood the crowd behavior and how you are getting relevant. Because once we say that we are 20 years experience is a bit scary thing as well, because are we not too old? Something like that. So how you are getting relevant yourself, maybe only 1 minute. How you are getting yourself relevant and effective as a person?
Yeah. The most important thing, if I have to, at my level in my organization, even you go to even the level at which our chairman Hans is there at Sojeti level. Every day I learn from my managers, right from our chairman Hans, you need to learn new. So if I go to my boss, if I go to my peers or my employees, one thing we ask always is, have you learned something new? What is new you are reading, or what is new you are practicing? So if I am into testing, I definitely started learning Tosca a year back. So I myself gone through your videos, your program, and then I told my team, like, you have to do it. I have done it, you have to do it. And that is where I started moving on to this.
Great, great. Thank you. In my IT career, this is the most serious, emotional moment I had. And it was with Sasha. This is how it happens, right, in life. So we were in a very big, event, our company sales kickoff. And at one fine evening, we both were talking about a project, which actually is the DevOps Toolchain project. We wanted to reach to somewhere, and we had not reached there. So a situation, right, a tough situation, a difficult situation. What I'm trying to tell you is, until we feel emotionally, how we'll react to that emotional situation, right? Meaning, it was not just a project for him, it was almost feeling like a life, it was almost feeling like a love-hate relationship kind of thing. Sasha told whatever he wanted to told, and I was sitting on my knees and listening to him. And today, Sasha is here, he will be delivering that project in front of all of you. So what I want to know, Sasha, is it again by chance, or is it by choice that you are using emotion into the system? Is it effective or not?
Thank you, yeah. And yes, and we made it thanks to the team. So you will see at 5 o'clock, you will see at 5 o'clock a complete walkthrough how a DevOps toolchain, how a delivery process will look like. You ask about relevance and about emotion. How do you stay relevant, and why is emotion so necessary? So the first thing is, we live in a time where we have huge opportunities. We have huge opportunities to fill gaps, and we need to understand where the gaps are and exactly fill these gaps. And one of the gaps in enterprises is testing, and is testing on a team level and testing on an enterprise level, to understand what the value of test automation and to deliver test and the strategy behind. This also brings me to the DevOps toolchain, where I saw the value and I wanted to present the value. I want to showcase it, because it's such a huge, complex, step-by-step process. If you just walk through a slide, nobody really sees it. So you need to demonstrate it. And once you demonstrate it, it's, oh my God, that's it.
Great. Thank you, Sasha. Finally, with Venkat. Venkat, you are such a senior person. You're always comprehensive, articulating the things in a very careful and very, very like a senior way. I see you like a very, senior teacher who is, kind of teaching the students and, guiding them with very careful behavior. So how you bring care into the profession, Venkat, I want to ask you, perhaps in, kind of even 45 seconds now.
Vaibhav, I will take little more than 45 seconds. Yeah, I'm being careful. Uh, okay, let me tell you, the care comes from telling the guys that it is not about automation, frankly. I'm telling this in an automation company's panel discussion. Frankly, life for every one of them is significantly more than automation, because one is automation is given. There are multiple tools and stuff like that. And of course, we have Tosca as well. And maybe going forward during this discussion, we will know where the advantage comes from. I will not get into the details. I have seen quite a few guys coming and personally discussing with me, Venkat, in testing, I'm not getting an opportunity to code. I'm not getting an opportunity to automate. And quite often, they're upset with that. Okay, I can understand what they say. But one thing which I want to tell you is something what you said as well. Test cases can be written, we can have scriptless automation done quite often by systems. But test cases cannot be written by systems. It has to be written by a person. Okay, so more people understand it, more people are able to develop that beautiful test cases which goes and finds out those intricate bugs, then you will know the value of that particular person. I have seen two types of people. One set of guys develop ordinary test cases as by rote quite often. And I have seen those special people who have written these test cases which goes and digs issues and brings out those bugs. Obviously, the second is the most important one, because first is easy to replicate. So if you want me to say every one of us, what we have to be careful is how much I am capable of writing those test cases which can unearth those complicated bugs. That is human.
Great. Thank you, guys. That's where we conclude. So we want to have a round applause for the whole panel. Thank you. And now I quickly invite our distinguished evangelist, Mr. Ingo Phillips, to hand over the memento of the conference to our esteemed panel. Guys, to Venkat. Okay, guys. Thank you. See you for the second session.